The Scrum value commitment is often misinterpreted in Germany. Teams or organizations frequently use it in the context of obligation or self-obligation. Unfortunately, the German concept of duty or sense of duty doesn't help us when we want to build great products with great teams, when we use Scrum as a tool to grow beyond ourselves. In this show, you will learn what the fifth Scrum value commitment is all about. You will discover how the Scrum values build on each other, when Scrum magic happens and what it is, and why Scrum is definitely not for you if you're satisfied with mediocrity. Hi, I am Uwe Pawolek, a certified Scrum Master and Mediator from Berlin, and I promote agile culture in healthcare industry. I am getting certified for the Professional Scrum Master III at scrum.org and invite you to join me during the preparations on my video blog. In this show, I will not present a practical example. Not that it would be difficult to find suitable examples. However, commitment as a Scrum value plays such a crucial role and is so often misinterpreted that I want to orient my explanation of commitment on a video by Jeff Sutherland from 2019. In this video, Sutherland explains in just 12 minutes and in his unique way what the Scrum values are and what Scrum is intended to achieve. Who better than one of the co-authors of the Scrum Guide to give us a more accurate explanation of the Scrum values? I love this video and often use it in my workshops. It has really helped me to understand Scrum better. Thanks, Jeff. So how do we proceed? First, I will explain the difference between an attitude and a state. Then I will tell you in what hierarchy Sutherland arranges the Scrum values to better understand what the Scrum value commitment means. Finally, I will explain why commitment requires an elite mindset and what management must do to optimally support Scrum teams. Are you ready? Then let's get started. Have you ever worked in a team where everyone felt 120% connected to the product or product goal, the way of working, the organization's philosophy, or the stakeholders? If so, was that an exception or the rule? I want you to be really honest with yourselves here. In my working life, this constellation has rather been the exception. But this connection is exactly what Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schwaber, the authors of the Scrum Guide, mean when they talk about Scrum magic. In every team I have worked with, I have explained the Scrum values in at least one workshop, and often I have asked myself how to translate and explain the value commitment. I had not fully understood the depths and dimension of this important Scrum value, and I didn't want to be satisfied with the terms responsibility and self-responsibility. Sutherland explains commitment on the one hand as a value, an attitude that one must adopt, but on the other hand also as a state, a result that only becomes possible when all other Scrum values are lived. But what is the difference between an attitude and a state? An attitude can be adopted, while a state must be brought about. This can go beyond one's own actions, beyond one's own responsibility. Therefore, it falls short when commitment is simply translated as responsibility or self-responsibility. Commitment is not a value that is only lived by the team, but must be promoted by the entire organization. Sutherland presents the Scrum values in a specific hierarchy. They follow a certain order which I will now introduce to you. Note, I explained all my values in my own videos. Therefore, I will now only briefly touch on the other values. The foundation, the basis on which Scrum is built, is the value openness. Without openness, there is no Scrum. Next are the values courage and respect, which are mentioned in the same breath, as both values lead to a state of unity, or better, a common understanding of the matter. Only when there is a unified understanding of the matter can the next value focus be lived. Without a common understanding, no matter how hard you try, you will not be able to work together in a focused manner. That makes sense. Now we come to commitment. Only when the aforementioned values are lived or promoted as a state will the team be able to adopt commitment as an attitude, to commit. By establishing this hierarchy among the Scrum values, Sutherland deliberately blurs the line between attitude and state, in my opinion. An attitude that can be demanded and a state that provokes a certain behavior. By doing so, he does not leave the responsibility for fulfilling the Scrum values solely with the team, but transfers it as a responsibility to the entire organization. Commitment must not only be lived by the team, but promoted by the entire organization. Scrum only works in an environment characterized by openness, courage, respect, focus, and commitment. Okay, but what does commitment mean in German? I refrain from finding a German word that semantically captures exactly what is meant in English. I always speak of commitment in my trainings. In this video, I would rather introduce the quote that Sutherland uses in his video to explain the value of commitment. It comes from the Scottish mountaineer and writer William Hutchinson Murray. The quote is so beautiful and motivating that I have copied it into the show notes below. Murray does not say what commitment is either, but he describes what happens when one is fully committed. When one is fully committed, fate changes for the better. Unforeseen things happen that make everything, even what you thought impossible, come true. He describes this phenomenon as an elemental truth underlying all ventures and creation processes. On the other hand, ignorance of this truth and those not striving for the state of commitment destroys countless ideas and the greatest plans. In this state of ignorance, according to Murray, there's hesitation and indecision. No decisions are made, everything could still be undone. Scrum is for the elite. Let's not kid ourselves. Most of the time in our lives, we belong to the average, even when we do our best. I don't mean that in a pessimist way. Murray wrote his sentences after exploring the Himalayas. It is illogical to expect that every person, every team, every organization, every product could always be best in class. With a leader comes the average. However, every organization always has a chance to create the best product to be second to none, at least once. And Scrum provides the necessary tool for this as a framework and with its values. If an organization lives the Scrum values, that is, creates an environment where everyone can adopt the right attitude, it maximizes its chances of belonging to the elite. Commitment cannot be demanded. Commitment must be cultivated. For this, I primarily see management as responsible. The concept of the servant leader is still far too weakly anchored in our corporate culture. Too many managers claim to lead and develop people, but they don't develop the organization. Additionally, few have undergone training to become a coach or therapist. The responsibility of leaders is to create an environment where all structures, processes, and conditions work towards enabling peak performance. Are you a Scrum Master, or do you work with Scrum teams in your organization? And do you want to deepen your Scrum knowledge and perhaps even get certified in the end? Then subscribe to my blog and join me on the journey to my professional Scrum Master 3 certification.